Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners pregame podcast. My name is Brandon Drumm. I'm here with Parker Thune. I'm here with Travis Davidson, the voice of the fan. And we're here to talk OU Missouri. Yes, that's right. Oklahoma heading to Columbia this weekend. A long-awaited, I guess, a rivalry now between the fans. It's here. So welcome, Missouri fans, right here on this podcast. This podcast, as usual, is powered by Jana King. Parker, take it away.
That's right, folks. Jana King is the greatest team to ever clean, as well as a proud partner of OU Athletics. They can deliver spotless results from stadiums to any size business across the country. You can check them out at janaking.com to access their unbeatable commercial cleaning services. That's JANIKING.com. Before we get started here, a quick word from a couple of our other sponsors. Look, it's football season. Time for tailgates, touchdowns, Sunday cookouts with the crew. What do you bring to a tailgate or a football watch party? Well, you ought to include Mando whole body deodorant as a tailgate / game day essential, because you're going to get stressed and sweaty when it's 3rd and long and the game's on the line. Mando is the MVP, clinically proven 72-hour odor control, so it's perfect for long days at the game or the bar. It's available in 3 formats: invisible spray, solid stick, invisible cream, and it comes in 4 cologne quality scents. Brandon and I tend to prefer the bourbon leather with Mando. Again, Mando whole body deodorant, and you can get started on Mando whole body deodorant, with a starter pack, which is perfect for new customers, or to secure some last-minute stocking stuffers if it starts to get close to the holidays. We got a discount code to help you get hooked on our favorite smelling whole body deodorant on the market. New customers can get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. Now that equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you use code INSIDER at shopmando.com, shopmando.com. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you with the folks over at Mando. Brandon, what's the play of the weekend for you on Prize Picks?
Yeah, so obviously Bama, LSU, that's a big one this week. LSU's defense has been up and down. Bama's has too this year. I guess we both can say that, right? But in this sort of scenario, LSU's defense, you never really know what you're going to get. It's been a crapshoot for them over the last few years. That includes this year. Obviously, Jalen Moore is a really good quarterback. They have him predicted at 230.5 yards. I'm going to go with more. I'm going to take more on this. So if you want to choose more or less, whether it's him, whether it's Jackson Dart at 272.5 versus UGA, which I think is wild as well, I will take less on that one, even though he's been lighting it up. But I'm going to go with less on Jackson Dart versus UGA. I'm going to go more with Jalen Moore. Or Jalen Milroe, excuse me, Jalen Milroe, more with Jalen Milroe.
There you go.
At 230.5.
And folks, if you want to get in on the action, you can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. It's the best place to get real money sports action. Join over 10 million users and sign up today. They invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Download the app today and use code OU Insider to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup with code OU Insider. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, boys. OU Missouri. We are less than 36 hours out at this point. The Sooners headed to Columbia tomorrow evening to face off with Mizzou in the very first matchup between these two programs since 2011, a clash of old Big 12 foes. Theo Weiss called it a rivalry earlier in the week. I'm not sure that's what either school regards it as these days, but
it's for him.
In the house, for him, certainly, as somebody that has played for both programs, and you do got multiple guys in this game on both sides that have played for both programs, not only Weiss, but Caden Green, and of course, J.J. Hester. In the halcyon days of the old Big 12, though, as Brent Venables referenced in his presser earlier this week, there were some classic battles between these two teams. Oklahoma almost always ended up on the victorious side, but there were some classic battles back in the day.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm old enough to remember 2002. when Chris Chester threw it to, I'm trying to remember the tight end.
It was Chris
Um,
Chester that caught it. It was Matt
Chris
McCoy that threw
Matt
it.
McCoy that Matt McCoy threw it to Chris Chester. That's correct. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember. I remember watching it. It was on TBS. If people don't remember, TBS, they did college football back then. So yeah, it was on TBS. I don't know why I remember what station it was on, but it was, and it was on TBS. Watching that as a senior in high school. And yeah, it was crazy. Wild times. Oklahoma won that ball game with the field goal. I'm trying to remember. Smith was the dude's last name that was their quarterback,
Brad Smith.
and Brad Smith. That dude, he just ran all over Oklahoma that day. And then obviously you go to 2007 when both teams came into Norman ranked. College game day was here in Oklahoma. It was a big deal. Oklahoma just blitzed Missouri that day. And then the bit later on that year for the Big 12 title, Missouri's number one. They can go play for a national title. Chase Daniels, you got Chase Kaufman, you got trying to
Jeremy
think
Macklin.
Jeremy Macklin. Like they had some cats on their team. They had a linebacker that played at Guthrie that was really good, Witherspoon, and I mean they were a good ball team. I remember how much crap the Missouri fans talked to me. I mean, I'm just a student, right, chilling up in the stands, trying to cheer on everybody, and their fans were just dogging, talking so much crap. By the time the third quarter rolled around, the end of the third quarter rolled around, they were real quiet. They were walking down the aisle, leaving as number 9 Oklahoma, or was it number 14? Were they 14 when they went in that game? Or were they 9? Were they 9? I believe they were 9. Number 9 Oklahoma went in and beat number 1 Missouri that day in San Antonio, nonetheless, in the Alamo Dome. So that, I mean, that was fun. Uh, Curtis Lofton, who's on staff, had a big game, by the way.
He did.
Big game that day. But yeah, that there, and then obviously I went up to 2010 and watched Oklahoma, number 1 Oklahoma. They got redemption and they beat number 1 Oklahoma, and their yellow out or gold out
Yep.
crowd.
I remember that game.
They one of their fans threw. I had some kids with me that are related or were related at the time, and they were throwing chicken bones at them, like 6-year-old kids, just walking down the road. It was kind of fun. I mean, it's funny now that you look back at it, but yeah, I think that's about the time that it became kind of a big deal because up to that point, it really wasn't quote quote a rivalry, right? But those last few, 4 or 5 years, it got kind of intense between the programs because Missouri got good. They got really good. And they've been decent since then. And obviously, Eli Drinkowitz has them going pretty good right now. So this ought to be a fun weekend, guys. It's been a weekend that we all have been looking towards
Mm-hmm.
since the Williams Neri stuff went down, just because that's kind of when it kicked off, and then obviously the Caden Green stuff just took it to a whole nother level between the two fan bases. So it's going to be an interesting. Has there been a lot of crap talk on Twitter? I really haven't seen it because everybody and everything has been talking about the. You think the election kind of drowned out the the vitriol between the two teams a little bit?
I think certainly what's helping to mute the animosity, if you will. And I do think there's animosity there. I think there's
Oh
animosity
yeah,
between the programs. I think there's animosity between the staffs. But the harsh reality is this game did not. It does not mean as much as we all figured it would going into the season.
yeah,
Missouri is outside the top 25, albeit 6-2. They have not looked good whenever they've played anybody with a pulse. And of course, Oklahoma is mired in a 5-4 campaign where you're just kind of hoping to get this one to get bowl eligible. So you know you have that, if nothing else, before you face Alabama and LSU to close out the year. So I don't know, man. I'm hoping that environment is fun Saturday night at Faroe Field. And I think it will be, but certainly it's a bit of a different animal than it would have been if both Mizzou and Oklahoma came into this game ranked in the top 25, as we all kind of figured before the season would be the case come November 9th.
yeah.
Yeah, and I think the rivalry, it's a big discussion this week, obviously. Some people are calling it a rivalry. Most aren't, I feel. The rivalry exists on Twitter and Twitter alone, I think.
Yeah.
And it is because that's where recruiting lives. Recruiting lives on Twitter.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think that obviously the Williams-Nwaneri recruitment was a big deal. But I think the reason you haven't had a lot of discourse throughout the season. Obviously, you guys brought up they've been boat race. They've been beaten. The only two ranked teams they've played, they got beat combined 75-10, and it didn't even feel that close. But also, you look at the players involved, and it's like, all right, Williams Winery, number one player in the country by some services. He has one tackle. So, and it was against UMass. So one tackle on the season against UMass. If he was like SEC Defensive Player of the Week or Defensive Freshman of the Week, and that was an SEC graphic, then Missouri fans would probably just tag Parker over and over, but would tag a bunch of OU fans, ha ha, blah blah blah. Remember when we were dead in the water? This like all the meat, like it would show back up. If Caden Green was, the offensive lineman of the week in the SEC or something like that, it would come up, right? But neither of them have done anything remarkable this season. And Caden Green is probable on the injury report, but I think he got pulled at UMass at one point, maybe injury related. I don't know. But I mean, there were Mizzou fans on Twitter saying, man, Caden Green keeps playing like this, and Missouri fans are going to go trash his dad's business. Like, they were like, hey, can you take him back? Like, it hasn't been going great. And I think that has kind of stunted a little bit of the trash talk on social media, because the two players that it circled that it kind of, because Theo Weiss, I don't think OU fans have any hate in their heart for Theo Weiss at all. So it's
No.
like for Theo, if Theo's their leading receiver, I don't think. I mean, I guess if Missouri fans want to be like, ha ha, Oklahoma, our leading receiver is a Sooner. Well, our leading receiver is a Tiger. So there's that. But it's funny to me, like the two players that had all the conversation around them, they're not really doing much. So there hasn't been time for a lot of barbs. And I do think, much like other things, the silent majority would not call OU Mizzou rivals. So when we show up in Columbia, I don't think OU fans are going to be treated very poorly, because I think the large part of all the chatter that goes on between the fan bases is from OU fans and then about 10 anonymous burners on the Mizzou side.
Yeah. I also, you talk about the rivalry solely existing on Twitter. I think Eli Drinkowitz thinks it's a rivalry. I'm going to say it. Like I believe he's pushing that narrative inside the locker room. I believe in his heart and his mind that it's a rivalry to him, because if you look at it and you're Missouri and you're looking for rivalries that will make you relevant, right? And I'm not saying Missouri's not relevant, so don't spin that and say that I'm saying that. And I'm talking to those Missouri fans that are out there that are watching this and all that. But you have Arkansas. You don't really want your rivalry to be Arkansas. I know you all don't. You all would rather it be somebody like Oklahoma. You guys missed the Civil War with, obviously, or the border war with Kansas. I know you all missed that. Like, because that meant something to you guys. And there was a hate. There was I believe, like a 2 hour drive, maybe an hour and 45-minute distance between you and those campuses. Arkansas just, not, I'm not bashing on Arkansas, but kind of am. But when that's your big rival in air quotes, you really don't have anything to latch onto as a program. And that's where I think where their fan base is looking to bring that back up with Oklahoma, because Oklahoma, if you can have a rivalry with Oklahoma, that it kind of gives you credibility, right? Like, ooh, your rivalry is with one of the biggest and baddest blue bloods in college football historically. And that's kind of where I think this whole thing stems from, is they're trying to bring this back. Like, if there was any program in the whole SEC that wanted Oklahoma back in, or in the SEC, just in the SEC in general, it had to be Missouri, because that meant that they had somebody close to them as far as location, rivalry history, a long-standing history, and that you could start building a organic rivalry. Now it's been kind of forced with the transfers, I think, and I think that's where OU fans are like, yeah, they're like that mosquito that just won't leave you alone right now, and and you can't, you hit it and try to slap it, and you keep missing it. It keeps coming back on different parts of your body and just annoying the crap out of you. And that's what Missouri is right now to OU fans. Now, if they go out and beat Oklahoma on Saturday night, okay, they're probably more than that at that point. But right now, that's how OU fans view Missouri, regardless of the 11-2 last year, regardless of being 6-2 right now, regardless of the transfer. That's how OU fans view Missouri because of the past history. Whether it's right or wrong, that's how they view them. But how much of the injuries for Missouri has that like kind of diluted this game a little bit? Like Cook's probably out, right? Like I think that's what most people feel is like he's not going to play, right? Um,
Which means it could be a very ugly, ugly football game because
correct.
you're going to have Drew Pine, who
Yeah.
couldn't start over a lacrosse player at Notre Dame on one side. And then you're going to have the worst OU O line that we have seen in quite a while on the other side. And they're going to be down Jacob Sexton. They're going to be down Jake Taylor. There's a decent chance they're down Michael Tarquin as well. Your starting tackles may be Spencer Brown and Logan Howland, fellas. That doesn't inspire a great deal of confidence for anybody.
You love Spencer Brown. That's like your favorite player on this team, Parker.
I say let
Why
Isaiah
the silence?
I let Isaiah Autry Dent cook. Might as well, if you're going to get beat at the right tackle spot, a decent amount on Saturday, at least let a young guy go get beat and,
Yeah.
let him get beat until Michael Tarquin gets back. But yeah, I mean, the injuries, there's the lip reading, video of Drinkwitz telling somebody before the bye week that it would be different if we had our QB. Like,
Mhm.
you know, yeah, probably I get it, but that's kind of a loser thing to do.
But how
Maybe,
much difference that game? Like, really, you think it
right.
34-point
Yeah,
different?
I don't
No,
think they're beating
no.
Bama with Brady Cook, but
Come on.
I mean, is it closer? Maybe. I mean, Drew Pine did have 6 completions and 3 interceptions. So yeah, it's probably closer, but like making those excuses it's lame. I mean, OU's injury report looks a lot worse than Mizzou's injury report. A lot.
Oh,
So I think if you're Missouri, you can't go in with this excuse of, oh, if we only had this guy, we don't want to hear it. We simply don't want to hear it. We're out, have been out 3 of the top 5 receivers for the entire year. One of them, another one injures his, breaks his foot on the first play of the game or first game of the season, his first catch. And then obviously Burks has been out since Tennessee. 4 of the 5 starters on offensive line out. Now I mean, on to third string. I don't even know how many strings are down on each side of tackles, but it is what it is. Going to be an ugly game for sure. But yeah, I mean, of the things that have quieted a bit of the build up to the game, I don't think injuries really have anything to do with it. Now, you could say injuries contributed to the records, and the records are why
yeah.
there's not as much build up. So, but I don't think there were a lot of people being like, man, really wanted to see Brady Cook suit up this week. Like nationally, I don't think people are living in, South Florida being like, man, Brady Cook is must see television. That's appointment television. If he plays, I'm tuning into that Missouri. I just don't think I don't think that's necessarily the case.
I I agree with
I
you.
also I also disagree on the Mizzou of all the teams in the SEC, Mizzou was the one that wanted OU in it the worst because
No, I'm saying that like if you were going looking at rivalry point of view, from a rivalry point of view, they would want they of all the teams, they were the one that would want it in there because of the past history.
right.
Because it just makes more sense for them.
I'm just
I'm not saying like they were begging for Oklahoma.
from
That
a
is
recruiting standpoint, I'd be like, us saying that, we're the SEC team this far west, we don't want another SEC team, let alone 2 of them this far west. But I do. When you brought that up, it made me think of a question. So we all think that we're going to pods eventually, right? Once you go to a nine game
Yeah.
SEC schedule, right? That's understood. If every school had their pick of three teams, how many schools in the SEC out of the 15 that aren't Mizzou would pick Mizzou to be in their three?
That's my point.
Right, but put a number on.
Zero.
Like the
That's
close.
my that is my that exactly is my
Right.
point is that they need an organic rivalry that is not Arkansas for yeah, but you need that for recruiting too. Like you want to play in this game. You want to play in this game, Oklahoma, Missouri. Like, and if they go to pods, we all kind of assume that it's gonna be Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, and what LSU or
They're
Texas,
putting
right?
they're putting it they're putting from a Mizzou pod perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Arkansas and Oklahoma, and then you swing. Does A&M get in there, or does everybody just want to? Does A&M have too many people lining up to be rivals with them? Like I don't know. I don't know who would be there. Who would
You're
be
gonna
there?
want Texas. Well, I mean, I guess you could keep the Texas A&M rivalry just every year, no matter what. You can make that one of the nine conference games, no matter what, every year if you're in a pod. So, I would assume it's Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, because essentially all four of those teams outside of Oklahoma, Arkansas have like a distinct history of playing each other, a long-standing history of playing each other.
Yeah,
So that it
Missouri
makes
ain't
the
getting
most
Texas. I
sense.
know that much. Missouri ain't getting Texas because Texas is going to have A&M, Arkansas, and Oklahoma in it. Probably. I mean that those are three much bigger rivalries than anything Missouri has with
But I
anybody.
mean, you can make that a, like, you get the guaranteed game every year. You can make the one of the nine conference games Texas A&M guaranteed every year. Like you can make that a guaranteed, and they don't need to be in the pod. You can make that a guaranteed rivalry. I mean, a conference rivalry. That's just how I look at it. I don't know. That's an interesting
I, I,
conversation
I sent
down
I
the
sent us
road.
down the rabbit hole. So
You did. You totally said that's an interesting conversation down the road. Um, what is the probability that Cooks plays? Like, and I want to ask you all this. Even if Cooks plays, does that like make or break your prediction on this game as far as Oklahoma is concerned? Because it doesn't for me.
Are you taking Oklahoma either way then? Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yeah, I'll just give it away right now. Like I think OU's winning this weekend. I do. I don't know why I think that. I have no.
Well,
The
shoot,
Missouri
I know
fans
why I
hate
think that.
away. I hate
I
away.
agree with you.
Hate away. You can hate
I
away. Cooks plays or not. There's something that's happening, or I believe is happening, and I'm trying to wash away the last 20 plays of the Ole Miss game. I know they happened, but the first 76 plays, Oklahoma was just they were great. They were great. Great's a bad word. They were good. They were good on offense, and obviously Maine's Maine and whatever, but it just looks different. It looked different versus Ole Miss. It looked different versus Maine, and I get that's an FCS school. You add kind of the offseason and the vitriol that's going back and forth. And I imagine there's more vitriol inside Oklahoma's locker room for Missouri right now over everything that was said off season, over everything that was done, than the opposite direction. That I think Oklahoma just they have so much more to play for this weekend. They're playing for their bowl berth. Like they have a lot to play for. And when somebody has a lot to play for and the other team is already given a bowl berth, they have games that they feel they can win later on down the line. And Oklahoma is in that scenario where it's like make or break potentially. To me, I don't know. I just feel like Oklahoma is in a scenario where they have everything to lose. And that's a dangerous team to me. Does that make sense?
I hear you. And I think there's some merit to that. I also just think, when you look at it, especially if it is Drew Pine playing quarterback for
Mm,
Missouri,
yes.
we saw what that offense looked like against Alabama, right? And Okay, you can make the argument Alabama and Oklahoma are different teams, sure, but it,
Defensively.
defensively,
Yeah.
is Alabama that much better, if at all, than Oklahoma? So, like, if Drew Pine is the quarterback, I don't think it takes many points at all for Oklahoma to win this game. I truly do not. If Brady Cook does find a way to play, the question becomes, okay, how close to 100% is he? How effective can he be if he's
How many
hobbled?
shots can he take?
Yeah, and that combined with the weather, combined with the impending return of Deion Burks and Jalil Farouk, we think right now, it all adds up to what ought to be an Oklahoma victory, guys. This feels very much like a game where if Oklahoma doesn't come out on the victorious end, it's going to be because they got in their own way again. It's going to be because
Hmm.
Oklahoma beat Oklahoma.
which has been happening all season, right? Like
It
we've said that
has.
South Carolina, Tennessee, like it's, we can say, hey, look, Oklahoma should win this game unless they get in their own way. Well, odds are they get in their own way a little bit, at least. Like we can at least been counting on that in SEC play. They've been getting in their own way. So I mean, I think I've come on every pregame pod this year and said, hey, don't turn the ball over and limit the penalties, and you'll get out of there with a win. And they don't do it. So with this game, even if Cook plays, you guys, leaned into it a bit. It's even when Cook was healthy, he was not taking a lot of like deep balls. Like he wasn't hitting on the that part of the offense, right? And you think with guys like, Theo Weiss and Luther Burden, obviously, that would be part of the game plan, right? Get the ball downfield, push the ball downfield. But it really wasn't that even when Cook was healthy. So with that, they're going to go side to side a ton. If Cook plays, it's going to be his legs, even though he's dealing with a high ankle as well. So everybody's talking about the wrist and the hand injury on his throwing hand, but he's got a high ankle as well. So it's like, how effective is he going to be in the ground game, right? So with that, like Oklahoma's the book is out on Oklahoma corners outside of Eli Bowen really right now, right?
Hmm.
So like with that, with two really good wide receivers on the other team, it's like if you can't take deep shots against our corners, I mean, I don't know if you get to run the ball against us, cool. We're a top 10 run defense in the country. Like, go for it. Like, do it over and over if you want. Like, we're if we do get the offensive help back, that might make Missouri press a little bit more on offense, try and take some shots, which
Hmm.
again would play into Oklahoma's hands. So I don't think I think if Drew Pine starts, I think Missouri will struggle to score two touchdowns.
The-
Like I think if Drew Pine plays and the weather is poor, like I think there's like a 65% chance rain right now. I think
It's supposed to end. It's supposed to end before the game, like 3, 4 hours before the game right
freezing
now.
cold takes is going to come after me on this one, but I do think there is a shutout possibility on the table if
Whoa.
conditions are bad on the table. It may be out of reach on the table, but I think it's on the table because
The-
they've their offense has looked so bad with Pine, and if they're going to be limited, through the air and play right into one of the best run defenses in the country, go for it.
Yeah. So the weather is supposed to click like after 3 p.m. There's zero chance of rain, they say.
I will say this as well. I think part of the opportunity for a shutout or keeping them to a low total is it looks like Oklahoma's found a little bit of an identity in the run game.
Yep.
And that's gonna limit the possessions, right? If you can limit the possessions of the opposition, you're naturally going to ideally give up less points, right? Simple math. So with that, if we can continue, we'll see about Javante Barnes' health. We'll see how the offensive line gels. But if you can continue to lean on the run game and Jackson Arnold's legs, then I think you have a path to a pretty clear path to victory. Keep their offense off the field, some sustained drives, kind of like that end of the first quarter or end of the first half against Ole Miss, right? That long
Mhm.
drive took some time, methodical. Like we need to see some drives like that. Maybe lean on Xavier Robinson a little bit, who can get some tough yards and kind of fall forward a bunch. Trusts his speed, that he's got that deceptive speed a little bit, especially the guy his size. So I think I think that's the game plan is run the ball, run the damn ball.
So Javonte Barnes can't go. It's a what if. I think he plays right now. Like that's my gut. My gut feeling is he plays. Um, let's worst case scenario, he doesn't go. Gavin Sawchuck has been battling that quad. He tried to go last week, and it felt good all week, but it tightened up on him in pregame. They think he'll be able to play this week. My question to you all is since they've gotten back to the offense that they were successful in with him, can he get going in y'all's mind? Like, can he get going this week?
What does get going look like?
I mean, 50 plus yards.
I mean, if he went for 50 plus yards, that would more than double his output on the season. So,
right, but he's only gotten like 2 carries a game, so that's not really fair. I mean, and that
I would love it if all of
I
a
would go the
sudden,
other way. Get going more than 50 yards from a guy that was, busting off 5 straight 100-yard games. That would be a bad game for him last season. So
it would, but I'm just saying, like, since they're running the offense that he was successful under now, like they're running the run plays, like this gap, the blocking is back to what he was successful with, right? Like instead of I have no idea like what was going on previously in the year, but like if he can come back and be healthy, can he be a part of this offense in you all's mind? Um, because look, we all love Taylor Tatum. We all think Taylor Tatum is going to be a superstar. He struggles holding onto the ball, which continues to be a problem for him. And he is not pass blocking well. And in a game like this, you need all the pass blocking you can get for Jackson Arnold. Um, they're gonna have to figure something out. And he's either the light bulb is either gonna have to click for Taylor Tatum, or they're gonna have to find somebody else to lean on. And we know it's not Sam Franklin.
mm-hmm.
There's only one other choice. But if he's not healthy either, what are they going to do? If you don't have
Xavier
Sawchuck and you
Robinson
don't have
time.
Barnes, huh?
Xavier Robinson time, baby.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah.
get
Well,
him.
that I am the biggest Xavier Robinson homer there is walking the face of the earth. But like, I hope he plays. But that's a scenario. That's a tough scenario to be in, particularly after BB said they're going to redshirt him.
Right. But if you say, hey, look, we're going to redshirt this guy, he's not played in 4 games. You can give him a workload against Mizzou as your down backs. You're about to go into a bye. Like you can afford to let Gavin and Javonte heal up a little bit and say, hey, look, if there was a time to use one of the games left for Xavier Robinson, this is the game
Oh,
to
I
do
hear
it
you.
for your lighter
I
running
hear
back. And
you.
my thing with Gavin Sawchuck is like, okay, so as he was coming back into the fold off an injury last year, right? We have precedent for this. He came back and he didn't trust his hamstring in the games he was playing in for a couple of games.
Yeah.
So my issue
Is he
okay,
going to trust his
if
quad?
he's not even
Yeah.
been able to play so far, and then he gets in the game, we have precedent that he doesn't trust his now healthy muscles. He doesn't trust it in order to be the Gavin Sawchuck that you need him to be. The explosive guy, the 100+ game, the guy that we saw at the end of the season, he didn't get there his first game back from injury. It took a little while where I remember specifically one little dump off that he took, and I was like, "Oh, Gavin Sawchuck just caught a swing pass, and he's got one linebacker to beat, and he couldn't beat him to the edge." And I was like, "Yo, Gavin Sawchuck's like a
So
record holder in the 60 meter. How did he not beat him?" But it was because he didn't trust his
yeah,
speed yet.
he
So
wasn't in shape last year. They were bringing him in. So this came straight from DeMarco Murray, by the way. Like the holdup last year for him was he didn't do fall camp because of his hamstring, and they brought him along slow. It wasn't a trust thing. It was he wasn't in football shape, and they were trying to play him in the middle of him trying to get back into football shape, and that just does you cannot do that.
you thought
And
he 100% trusted his hammy last
oh
year?
yeah, he did it, but it was more he wasn't in shape. He didn't have the explosiveness because he wasn't in shape. He wasn't back to where he was supposed to be. And that came from DeMarco, that came from people around Sox, that came from players. You're like, yeah, dude, he's just so far out of shape. he finally got back into shape right after Texas, and we saw what happened. But I'm not predicting, and I'm asking you all, and I think you all everybody needs to understand this. That's in the comments and everything. I'm literally asking if you don't have any other choice,
Yeah.
they're going to have to give him more than just 2 carries to see if he
Yeah.
can get
Okay.
going.
And here's what I would say to that. There's obviously a lot of hypotheticals baked into that scenario.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what we know going into Saturday. What we know is Jackson Arnold's playing the best ball that we have seen him
Yep.
play in his young collegiate career. As of this point, coming off what was a strong performance against Ole Miss and what was another strong performance as you would have expected against Maine. He looks more confident. He looks far more settled into the offense, the Joe John Finley offense, than he was in the Seth Luttrell offense. We know we're going to see more of Jacoby Johnson at cornerback as we did last week
Yep.
against Maine. You got a good idea that you might see quite a bit of Eli Bowen, Jacoby Johnson at the corners instead of Des Malone and Kenai Walker, which has, well, I should say, ever since Eli Bowen started playing more, it's kind of gone by the wayside. But you've still seen a lot of those two veteran guys, and they haven't been terribly effective. So you know you got that. Like I said, you know you got Jackson Arnold playing his best ball right now.
Javonte's
And
playing his best ball.
what's that now?
Javonte Barnes is playing his
Yeah,
best ball
Javonte
by
Barnes
far.
is playing his best ball. Listed as
Devontae Barnes
questionable, but
playing the
again,
best ball of anybody on the team, probably.
yeah.
Yep. Agreed.
And
100%.
you know that regardless of whether you're facing Drew Pine or you're facing a hobbled Brady Cook, any way you slice it, the opposing quarterback is not going to present a terribly dynamic threat. And so I think this sets up very well for Oklahoma. I think this sets up very well for their defense, especially if it's going to be a rainy, ugly night in Columbia. Man, this feels to me like the type of game that Oklahoma is engineered to win. And I don't expect this will be a terribly high scoring game. I don't think it needs to be. I think if you can just kind of speed this game up, if you can run the ball effectively with Barnes and Tatum or Sawchuck or whoever else you want to complement Barnes in the rushing attack, as long as you can build upon the good things that you did against Maine last week, control the pace of the game, avoid turnovers. Like, to me, the calculus is very, very simple, and it's all very much within Oklahoma's control. I don't think you need the opponent to give you anything this weekend.
Yeah. So I'm looking at it right now. As far as Missouri goes, did you know that Missouri and just Brady Cook in general, did you know he's been sacked 4 times a game
Oh, I thought you were going to say all year.
on
Four,
average?
four
No,
times a
no,
game.
no, no,
Holy
no.
smokes.
Yeah.
So
He's
they got
at
O-line issues
Missouri.
too.
Yeah, he's been sacked 16 times in the 5 games that he's played. So basically 3.7 times or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, four. He's averaging 4 times, 4 sacks a game. Oklahoma's ninth in the country in sacks this year, as far as like getting sacks. They're also probably number 1 in the country allowing sacks. I don't know. I haven't looked that up. I don't want to look that up. Um, but yeah. My point is that regardless if it's Drew Pine, regardless if it's Brady Cook, Oklahoma and Missouri has struggled giving up sacks. And to your point, Parker, is that is another point in Oklahoma's direction to where you kind of give them the advantage, right? Offensive line versus Missouri's offensive line versus Oklahoma's defensive line. Big advantage. Yeah, you got Theo Weiss, you got Mookie Cooper, you got obviously Luther Burden. I mean, they're good players. They're really good players. We all understand how good their wide receivers are. They don't have near the run game they had last year. And I think that, to me, is one of the deciding differences in this ball game. Like, if they had the run game they had last season, okay, you would have to worry about if you're Oklahoma, you're going to worry about the run game. But as we're talking, you would sit there analytically and worry about, Missouri being able to hold on to the ball, being able to wear down Oklahoma's defense, and eventually, break Oklahoma's back later on in the game if the offense for Oklahoma isn't isn't sustaining drives, right, and keeping the defense off the field. Um, to me, I feel like this is an advantage for Oklahoma. Tackles for losses, Oklahoma, huge advantage. Missouri gives up a bunch of tackles for losses. Sacks, same thing. Like, this is a game, if I'm Zach Alley, Brent Venables, you want to pin your, whether it's Brady Cook, whether it's Drew Pine, because one, Brady Cook, like you said, Parker, may not be 100%. And if he's not 100%, what is he? 75, 70%, 60%? You want to pin your ears back. You want to get after him, make him uncomfortable, because anybody that's played the game, if you're injured, particularly at the quarterback position, you're vulnerable. You are so vulnerable in that throwing position, in not being able to see who's coming at you from a backside blitz perspective, all that. Like, that stays in the back of your mind every time you drop back to pass. You're going to try to force things. You're going to try to get the ball out quickly. Does that force turnovers, right? He hasn't thrown a lot of picks this year. I think he's 7 touchdowns to 1 interception, but he's only given, I think he's only averaging like 4.5 yards a throw, or 7 yards, excuse me, 7 yards a throw
They go
right
side
now.
to side a ton.
Yep. 7 yards a throw. Drew Pine is averaging 4.5. So, like, they're not beating you vertically. They're just
No,
not.
no. And truly, the X factor in this game, in so many ways, is exactly who you would expect it to be, and that's Luther Burden.
Yep.
Luther Burden is the type of player that is good enough to single-handedly put Missouri in position to win the football game if you let him go bananas on you. And that can't happen for Oklahoma. It's going to be a major challenge. You'd expect for Eli Bowen. I would think Eli Bowen gets that assignment, which, boy, that's a lot to put on a true freshman, isn't it? We're going to really see what Eli Bowen's made of. And look,
Would you not put Jacoby on him just because of the size?
no, I think you put Eli Bowen on him. Eli Bowen's your
I
best
agree.
cover
I'm
corner.
just asking, just size wise.
Yeah,
I'd probably
Eli,
put Jacoby on Theo theoretically.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah.
Theoretically was not supposed to be a pun, but I really
very
like the
nice.
played out.
Very nice
Well
work
done.
there.
Well,
Well done.
and it 2 points to Eli Bowen being on Luther Burden. Could you imagine, like, a year ago, just like when Eli was just in the class, wasn't signed yet, but when he was committed to the class and Luther Burden was lighting the world on fire at Missouri? Like, could you imagine being like, we need Eli Bowen to get on campus quick so we can have somebody to deal with, Luther Burden,
That's
right?
funny. Yeah.
It's just wild how well he's played, and probably versus expectations, I guess, for people that didn't watch him at Geyer. But the other part of it is, yes, our corners have to play well on Luther Burden, but if they're you've got a hobbled Cook or you've got Pine, and they know as well as the whole country knows. They know, we know, everybody knows that Luther Burden is their path to victory. So
Yep.
they're going to get bubbles. They're going to do jet sweeps. They might do some directs. Who knows? Like, they need to get the ball in their best player's hands. If they can't trust their quarterback to get it downfield to get it in his hands, they'll say, screw it. Luther, come back here. Let's run jets. Let's run, whatever. You could see speed option with him in the backfield. I don't know. But that's more than just the corners, right? You got to get upfield. You got to, contain on those jets, reverses, whatever, and really, really be disciplined, in your assignments. So corner play, big time, but entire defense containing Luther Burden.
The funny part is we haven't really discussed it. Like, you can probably add Luther Burden into this rivalry piece with Oklahoma, considering the fact that he was committed to Oklahoma for a good period of time, actually. So, I mean, like, yeah, it's kind of funny. Like, you got Theo Weiss, Oklahoma connection, Luther Burden, Oklahoma connection. Like, there's a lot of their big plays were either committed to Oklahoma for
Daniel
a
Parker
good bit.
Jr. No Daniel Parker Jr. Respect.
In
Come on
Parker,
now.
but he's not on the team anymore, bro. But yeah, I get what you're saying. But yeah, there's a lot of back and forth there. What what
Well, and
what
let me
who has to play well for Oklahoma? Jackson Arnold, we know. Like, that's the given. Throw that out. We know Javante Barnes. Like, who else has to play well for Oklahoma offensively for them
uh,
to be successful? But the whole offensive line, yes. I want specifics.
whoever the hell is playing right tackle. That, to me, whether it's Spencer Brown, whether it's Isaiah Autry-Dent, whether it's 75% of Michael Tarquin. I don't know, man. You got to get right tackle figured out because
Mhm.
you can pretty well expect that Logan Howland is going to be your starting left tackle, and there'll be a lot of what's the word? There'll be pressure on him certainly to step up
Yeah.
and perform better than he has, certainly against Ole
Got to move
Miss.
when the
You know,
ball snaps, brother. That's just some advice. Ball
yeah,
snaps, you should probably move and not sit
yeah.
there and stare at the defensive end coming at you. Just
So
Or
whoever's playing
even
right tackle for Oklahoma, whoever that may be, they got to bring their A game, and then ultimately, and you know, it's not a this is not a name that's not going to surprise anybody. It's a name we've already mentioned many a time, but Jackson Arnold. Jackson Arnold can't turn the football over. I think that's the absolute biggest thing. Your defense is going to be able to do enough against either a hobbled Brady Cook or Drew Pine to minimize the necessity of explosive plays on offense to be able to go and win the football game. The only thing I think that's going to jeopardize Oklahoma's chances of being able to bog it down and go get a win on Saturday night would be Jackson Arnold turning the football over. As long as he doesn't do that, as long as he's making smart decisions with the football, and we've seen him make much smarter decisions with the football in his last two starts. And, well, you go back to the 3 quarters of the game that he played against South Carolina, he was pretty good decision making in that game as well. Um,
Mhm.
as long as that's what he's doing again this week, I think Oklahoma wins and may win comfortably.
So I'm trying to find Missouri here on the sacks. Okay, they are tied for 45th with only 18 sacks. But let me throw some perspective there for everybody. If South Carolina had not played Oklahoma yet, did you know that they would only have 20 sacks this season? They now have 31 because they played Oklahoma and got 11.
Yeah,
Ole
so
Miss
this the
had
point
30
there.
sacks on the season. Yes. My point is that they could pad their stats and jump Oklahoma as far on the sack lead if Oklahoma's offensive line doesn't shapen up and play better than what they have because everybody is the two teams in the SEC that have more sacks than Oklahoma, they got them all against Oklahoma in one
right
game.
when you're talking about who's got to play well on the offensive side of the ball, though, I'll be interested to see if Jackson, I don't know, devolves into relying on Bauer Sharp so heavily again. One thing that he did great against Maine, and I think this was probably a Kevin Johns coaching situation. A quarterback might have just gotten better, guys. But like he was heavily reliant, especially in that second half, on Bauer Sharp. It's a security blanket. Again, we've talked about does the offense just go through him, what of it. But against Maine, he completed 15 passes to 8 different receivers. It was the best he'd spread the ball around all year. Obviously, hit JJ, hit Brennan, yeah, hit Bauer Sharp as well. But became less predictable, was able to spread it around a little bit more. Obviously, wasn't facing the pressure that you would face against a South Carolina or even an Ole Miss or something like that. So I get you've got to slide the scale a little bit, but I hope that Jackson continues to look for everybody, go through his progressions, because if it becomes a game like we saw Ole Miss in the second half, where you're staring Bauer Sharp off the line and Mizzou's able to go make a play on the ball, then you're going to be in big trouble.
Yeah.
So that's where I think specifically Jackson has to play well is he needs to spread the ball around. Remember, he's got I mean, if you get a Burks or a Farouk back, I think that will help. But obviously he's confident in those two. But just seeing it to 8 different receivers last week, again, his best performance spreading the ball around of all year, continuing to build on that, building confidence in those receivers because the more you throw to a receiver, it helps with both players' confidence, right? If you take a deep
Mhm.
shot to JJ, he brings it in. Okay, I can do that again. And on the wide receiver side, once they see it and they catch, they get more confidence in themselves. So spread the ball around. Do not devolve into staring Bauer Sharp off the line and forcing the ball to him when he's covered, third downs, things like that. Spread the ball around.
Yeah. Look, we haven't really even talked about Jalil Farouk and Deion Burks and what they can open up for the offense. And And I think it's mainly because we don't know, right? Like
Yeah, and
believe it when you see it type deal when they come out. But I can tell you this that they full practice or they practiced a lot on Monday and Tuesday.
yeah.
Um,
Well, to me,
so
here's the story with Jalil Farouk and Deion Burks. I don't know that I would necessarily expect both of those guys to set the world on fire in their first game back because Burks has been out for a while. Farouk has been out for even longer. This is going to be Farouk's first action in upwards of 2 months. We're talking live action on a Saturday.
oh,
So production wise, I don't necessarily think they explode, but what they will do, they will force Missouri to account for them. And that's going to be valuable. That's going to be valuable for a guy like Jacob Jordan working over the middle in the intermediate game. That's going to be valuable for a guy like Bauer Sharp, who maybe sees things open up a little bit more for him. I think that's going to be exceedingly valuable for a guy like Brendan Thompson, who when he's on the field, there's a good chance he's running something downfield where he has a chance to beat somebody one on one. Well, if you have to commit to man coverage on Brendan Thompson because you have to account for the presence of Jalil Farouk and Deion Burks elsewhere on the football field, I'll take Brendan Thompson in a 40-yard sprint over pretty much anybody that Mizzou could throw at him on the defensive side of the ball. So if you want to be able to open up the shot game, and I don't really know how much that'll be possible given the weather conditions if it does get real nasty weather-wise, but if you want to open up the shot game, Jalil Farouk and Deion Burks are two guys that are worth having on the field if that's what you're going for. So,
No,
yeah.
it's a good point. So if they are out there, you have to throw them the ball though, right? Like you have to get it to them.
oh yeah,
It reminds me of Sam Presti's it was either Sam or Mark that talked about it in the preseason, talking about, you have to get the like Aaron Wiggins threes. He's like, he may shoot this percentage, but it's worth more of a percentage if we can get people to start going out there and worrying about the threat, right? It opens up the lanes, it gets Chet in one-on-one situations. Like that's how I feel about like having them back out there. Like even if they're hobbled a bit, or maybe not hobbled, but if they're rusty, we'll call it, like throw them the ball. Like give them a chance to go make a play. And that's the only way. Like if you just line them up and both people know, these guys are rusty. He needs to get back into a rhythm with them, stuff like that. Like to your point, it will open up so much more. And I talked with Brandon about this last week, is I think I think it's kind of interesting because even on the national broadcast, Parker, it was, "Hey, Brennan Thompson, look for 15 to go deep here. Man, here, this is where I would take a shot to Brennan Thompson." And the so much of anytime you bring up Brennan Thompson's name, everybody does this. Not just us, national, everybody does it. It says deep shot, send him over the top, deep balls, this, that, and the other. And I think part of that has subconsciously got into Jackson because Brennan has been open a ton on deep curls, on crossing patterns. He's been open a ton. And I think it's almost like, oh, this is my deep shot guy. And he doesn't look to him. Like,
mm.
and I know that's probably, a wild theory, but I think the narrative around Brennan Thompson being the deep ball guy is subconsciously impacting when they break the huddle and he knows what kind of route Brennan's running, he's looking elsewhere.
All right, are we
Um,
ready to pick this thing?
yeah. Hey, real quick, Jonte Cook no longer at Texas.
Yeah, well,
Yep,
here's what it
dismissed.
is.
Yep.
It's always funny whenever somebody gets dismissed or something like that, and you look on their Twitter and their last tweet is like a rush, like, "Hey, uh, subscribe to this company. We thank Texas One Fund for all they do." Because in order to get their NIL money, they have to hit on their deliverables in their NIL contract. So I went
Mhm.
to Jonte's profile, and it's like his last tweet is the one about supporting the Texas One Fund. He was like, "Hey, before I leave, I need to do this so I can get my money, and then I'll leave." It's so funny. Take the money and run.
That's funny. Yep. All right. Let's do this, guys. I'll let you guys. I. Everybody heard my pick. I'll let you all go, and then I'll do my thing last. Go ahead.
I think this game is going to be miserable. And I mean that in the sense that, like, most people, when they sit down and watch a football game, they want to see points these days. They want to see scoring. I don't think there's going to be much of that. I have Oklahoma winning the game by a score of 17-6. I think it is a field position battle.
Mm.
I think it is a defensive stalemate for much of the contest. And ultimately, OU is able to break through with a couple of drives, whereas Missouri just can't because, frankly, Jackson Arnold is a much better quarterback than Drew Pine. So that's where I draw the line. I like the Sooners.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. I think it's also gonna be ugly. I think they're not going to get too complicated on the offensive line for Oklahoma, considering three freshmen are likely going to be playing major snaps for them. The run game going. We'll see about Javante's health. We'll see if Gavin's health. We'll see about these guys. But I've got it 20 to 10. 20 to 10. I think again, there are some field goals kicked in this game. I think red zone tightens up. But I do think OU runs the ball well. Whatever personnel's in there, I think they run the ball well. I think Oklahoma goes over 200 on the ground.
Oof. Wow. Um,
With
all
Jackson
right.
being a large part of that.
Okay. Yeah, that clarified. I was like, whoa.
He's part of OU.
No, yeah, no, yeah, yeah, that's fair. So I'm probably going to be a little higher scoring. I get the weather, but it's supposed to clear out around 2 o'clock, 2:30, and it's a turf field, so there's that. At the end of the day, I feel like this team, this offense, is starting to get things going a little bit. I understand Missouri's defensive line is pretty good, right? Chris McClellan, all those guys, they're good players.
Sure.
Um, but I don't. My guts, like I said earlier, I think Oklahoma just they have so much to play for this week. Um, and I'm making this prediction on the grounds that I feel like at least one of Dion Burks, Jalil Farouk play, right? I don't know if both, but I feel like one of the two will be out there. I think we all can agree on that, right? Like we all feel like one of them will play. Do you feel that way, Parker?
I,
Between Burks and Farouk?
I think they both play. But yes, I think a baseline expectation could be you absolutely have one of them available.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why
I,
that's why
I think
that's
I
why
think I think neither of them play. I think neither of
really
them play. Until I see somebody that's listed as questionable on the availability report actually play for Brent Venables, then I will consistently say they will not play if questionable
that's
is necessary.
fair.
Because
That's
because
fair.
we haven't seen it, and we're all still trying to build, our understanding of what coach uses the availability report in what way, right? And as far as I know, correct me if I'm wrong, like has anybody been listed as questionable in the opening availability report and ended up playing on Saturday? Because I don't think it's happened.
Tatum. Tatum.
I don't think
Tatum
Tatum was
did.
ever listed as
He
questionable.
was. I thought he was questionable on a
Probable,
Wednesday,
right?
and then Friday I thought he was moved as
Well, shoot,
probable.
Travis, if that's the case, Javante Barnes
Monte
is a no go
Barnes.
on Saturday, too.
Yeah.
Maybe Brent's like, hey,
I
there's
think
ever a
that
time to
one's
have
more
some
gamesmanship.
gamesmanship. It was against, if there's ever
He
time to have a
played
game,
the whole game after that happened.
I know, but you know how injuries work. You get adrenaline
I
in the
get
game,
it.
all that kind of stuff. It kind of swells up afterwards. Who knows? But it's if there was ever a time to have some gamesmanship, I could see this being a Brent Venables time to
Yeah.
do it with a bye week on the other side of the game. Like you've got a bye
Very
week, next week. Like you got, but again, I will believe Burks and Farouk are playing whenever I see them, not on the field in pregame, dancing and throwing a football, but actually suit up, line up, and take snaps.
fair enough. Be that as it may, I'm going on this with the grounds of at least one of the two play. I feel like one of the two will actually make plays for Oklahoma, whether it's Farouk and or Burks. I just think that opens up the offense a little bit more for Oklahoma. Yes, I know the offensive line struggles. I know that the right tackle, left tackle, you've got to have that somewhat solidified. And I know some youngsters are going to be rotating in on the offensive line, but they seem to be playing with a little bit more of an edge as of late. Yeah, the last 20 snaps of Ole Miss doesn't really great, but they were adjusting to not having Sexton at that point. Now they've got 3 kind of weeks of work without Sexton in the lineup. Um, I don't know. My gut says that they play well and well enough to score 24 points. So I have it 24-14 Oklahoma. And am I confident in that pick? Hell no. But that's my pick. I'm sticking with it. 24-14 Oklahoma. They become bowl eligible. And look, they off of what they did, Ole Miss, off of the main game, if they go and beat Missouri, that's confidence. And confidence is a hell of a drug. We've been talking about that, guys. Confidence is a hell of a drug. Could they pull off one more to get 7? If they go 7-5, I think the fan base is ecstatic after what they saw to start the season with all the injuries. I don't think they're ecstatic in the grounds of 7-5, but I think they're ecstatic in the grounds of, dude, half the starters are out and they still went 7-5 the first year in the SEC. Okay. If they can only have a quarter of the guys out next year, maybe they win 9-10 games, like there's that probability with everybody that could be returning. So that I think that's the last 3 games are so critical for Oklahoma confidence moving forward and building off of this into 2025. So get bowl eligible. We'll see what happens. And I do think they do that this week. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners pregame podcast. If you're not a member of OU Insider, $9.95 a month, $99.95 will get you $99.95 will get you a whole year. $9.95 will get you 1 month. Again, it's less than $10 for 1 month. You pay probably $30, $40 a month in Starbucks and all this other stuff that you go do, gas station, Cokes, Pops, whatever. Man, I promise you, if you're a diehard OU fan, you want to be on there with us. It's huge. And there's thousands and thousands of OU fans on there. We got content galore, insider notes, whether you're worried about Michael Fasusi. We can tell you why you should or shouldn't be on OU Insider VIP, whether you're worried about some other 25 guys. Parker and I have notes up constantly on recruiting. We've got team notes up. We've got all sorts of stuff for you guys over there. Jesse Crittenton, Brian Clinton, Brody Lusk is killing it on the basketball side of things. He's amazing with insider notes there. Go to OU Insider, softball, baseball, all of it's covered for you guys over there on OU Insider VIP. $9.95 a month, $99.95 for the whole year. If you're a college student and or military, if you're a teacher, you have a .edu and or a military, you can prove that you are military. Hit me up, ouinsider@rivals.com. We will get you OU Insider for 1 year. You got to be active military, not veteran. I'm a vet. We love our military, though. We love our active guys. We love our vets, but we love our active people. We want to help you guys out. $11.95 for the whole year. If you email us at ouinsider@rivals.com. Doesn't matter what college you go to. Doesn't matter where you teach. Doesn't matter what you do. If you're an active military, if you're a teacher, if you're a college student, no matter where, you email us from a .edu, you email us and prove that you are active military. We will send you a promo code from ouinsider@rivals.com, and you can go on there, sign up, $11.95 for a whole year. Again, $11.95 for the whole year. ouinsider@rivals.com. Email us, active duty, teacher, college student. Love to have you guys on there with us. All right, for Parker Thune, for Travis Davidson, my name's Brandon Drumm. That's going to do it for this version of the OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners pregame podcast powered by Jana King. You guys have a blessed day.